Happy Halloween, everybody. Excuse me. Welcome to Mr. G's Halloween special. The time to get the creeps. So good. Today we will be talking about the history of the spookiest holiday of the season and the freaky and creepy traditions and rituals that come with it. We will be baking Halloween ghosts for food, and we will be carving a jack-o'-lantern for spook. Excuse me again. Enjoy.
The history and traditions of Halloween, the Celtic or Celtic influence. In Old Ireland, the Celts had a party that reads Samhain, but is pronounced Samhain. And, well, that party celebrated three events, so to say. First of all, it celebrated the harvest, the end of summer, the end of light. And people were celebrating the harvest of vegetables, fruit, grain, but of course also of cattle. Lots of cattle were slaughtered and the meat was preserved for winter. The bones were kept for reasons. We will talk about that when we talk about bonfires, not bonfires. Second, they celebrated the new year, the start of winter, darkness. Well, frankly speaking, the Celts only distinguished two seasons. The season of summer, light, and the season of winter, darkness. And, well, they celebrated the new year, and, by the way, winter, darkness, is a symbol of death. Fine. Then they also celebrated the afterworld. At that time, people believed that the spirits of the dead would roam among the living. So to say, the living had access to the underworld, and the underworld had a connection to, well, the world of the living, so to say. The problem was here that you had two types of ghosts or spirits. The good ones, these were your dead ancestors, and they would come to visit you to warn you of bad things to happen, so that you could actually avoid these things to happen. So, actually, good spirits. Well, of course you had evil spirits too, and these spirits would also roam the streets, but they would greet, or let's say select, the living who would die soon. And they would torture them with evil tricks and pranks. Well, that's the Celtic influence. What happened when Christianity came to Ireland? The Christianization of Ireland took place in the 5th century. A missionary, St. Patrick, converted the Irish Celtic tribes to Christianity. And he also made sure that there were no more snakes in Ireland. Holy man. Missionaries at the time used a successful marketing trick when talking to the pagans. They somehow said, keep your pagan parties, traditions and rituals, no problem, but accept our Christian religion. Somehow successful missionization meant making deals with the pagans and somehow adopt pagan rituals, traditions, and most important, parties, and integrate them into Christian religion. The Pope also supported that trend at the time because the Pope moved All Hallows Day, commemoration of the saints, and All Souls Day, commemoration of the souls, into the neighborhood of Samhain. Well, then called All Hallows Eve, and when you pronounce that quickly and forget about the all, you have our Halloween. The whole Halloween party was somehow transformed and the focus shifted. Celebrating the harvest was moved to Thanksgiving, and welcoming the new year was moved to New Year's Eve by the end of December. What was left was a gigantic commemoration party in favor of death and the afterworld, the world to come. The early Christians were waiting for doomsday, last judgment, kingdom come, but it didn't. Let us shortly take a look at what people understood and how they imagined Judgment Day. In the picture you can see how people imagined Judgment Day in the Middle Ages. Jesus, the judge, is sitting on a throne and directing the souls to the right, the gates of heaven, and to the left, the road to hell. On the right, from Jesus' point of view, Saint Peter, holding keys in his hand, welcomes the good and righteous souls to heaven, where eternal reward, joy and bliss awaits them. On the left, from Jesus' point of view, you see little devils who are dragging and pushing the evil and accursed sinners into the fires of hell, where eternal punishment, pain and misery awaits them. Next to Jesus, you see Holy Mary and John the Baptist praying for the souls of the dead. And that is the important bit in the picture. Prayers prayed and good deeds done by the living in favor of the dead could save poor souls and help them to get on the road to heaven. Because when Judgment Day just wouldn't come, people started asking themselves, where do the souls go if not to heaven? And they came up with an answer, an explanation, an invention called the purgatory. Some stopover in between. The purgatory was thought of as some sort of fiery place in which poor souls could work off their sins and have them cleaned by fire. And once this cleaning process was over, they would finally be allowed to move up to heaven. The point is, there is a connection between life on earth and afterlife. And these two worlds somehow interact. What you do in life affects the afterworld. And sometimes the spirits of that world talk back to you. There are various and multiple traditions and rituals on Halloween. The interesting question here is always, where do they come from? Costumes, for example. Why the costumes? People believed that monsters, ghosts and spirits would roam the streets on Halloween's Eve. When that happens, you have two options. Number one, try to run away and get caught. Number two, hide from the ghosts. And you do that best by wearing costumes for a cover. Blend in with the crowd. This way you can confuse the monsters because they can't tell the real monsters from the fake monsters. Right. Trick or treat. Ding dong, the doorbell rings, and in front of you are standing kids screaming trick or treat at you. Where does that come from? One idea is to bribe monsters with treats to spare you from their nasty tricks. Treats are somehow a try to appease monsters and make them more peaceful. A religious interpretation would be sacrifice. Use treats as a sacrifice to worship God. In the Middle Ages, poor souls went from door to door asking for alms. Among other things, the poor souls were given soul cakes. In return, the poor souls treated with treats would pray for your dead relatives roasting in the purgatory to ease their pains and shorten their time in the purgatory. Bonfires. First of all, it's not a word, a term borrowed from the French language. It's not a bonfire, a fire that burns well, or a feu de joie. No, it's a bonfire. Because when animals were slaughtered and the meat was preserved for winter, the bones were kept and burned in bonfires. Reason? to scare off monsters in the first place, and a religious reading again to worship the saints. Jack-o'-lanterns. Maybe the most prominent symbol of Halloween. For some reason we like carving faces into pumpkins and use them as a lantern. Why? Well, to scare away the devil and other monsters. We will hear that story later. Now I'm hungry. Let us bake some Halloween food. Let us bake some Halloween ghosts. Why? Well, ghosts that you eat can't eat you. Fine. Here are the things we need. Let us quickly check the ingredients and tools we need for our Halloween ghosts. We need a mixing bowl filled with flour, some dry yeast, a cup of milk, butter, sugar, salt, 2 eggs, some raisins for the eyes and the mouth, a saucepan, a hand blender, 2 baking sheets and 2 baking papers, kitchen towels, a pastry brush, a whisk, and a knife. Let us start by warming the milk. By the way, make sure you save some for later. When the temperature is comfortable, the temperature is fine. Lukewarm is enough. Now we mix the flour and the yeast. We add the milk. The butter. Start kneading the mix with our hand blender for 5 or 10 minutes. Before we start here, let us not forget to add some salt for taste improvement. And then we start working the dough until we have reached the consistency we want. You want to finish the kneading process by using your hands, and when you can form such a beautiful ball here, you cover the dough with a kitchen towel and let it rest at a warm spot for 1 hour. After resting time, we want to give the dough another good kneading. You might want to add a little bit of flour too. And then we can finally start forming, shaping our Halloween ghosts. To form our ghost, we take a bowl of dough, press it a bit to give it an oval shape, about a centimeter thick. Once we've done that, we take a knife and cut a corner on the right and a corner on the left and form the head. Then we cut another corner on the right and another corner on the left to form the arms. And we've got the body here. And we want to drag the end of it and twirl it to give our ghost a pointy tail. Do not forget the raisins for the eyes. And another raisin for the spooky the mouth. When finished forming the ghosts, place them on baking sheets and cover them with kitchen towels and let them wait for you for another half an hour. In the meantime, heat the oven at 180 degrees. Half an hour is over. Now we take the remaining milk and an egg. Be careful, we only need the egg yolk. And produce a milk egg yolk juice. And rush the ghosts with the juice. It's baking time. Bake the ghosts for 15 or 20 minutes at most. See you later. After cooling down, our little spooks here look like that. Don't forget the rule why you must serve them at your house on Halloween. Ghosts that you eat.
They eat ghosts here. I think I'd better be leaving now. I'm getting out of here.
Cannot eat you. Enjoy. The story of Jack-o'-lantern, or Jack Oldfield, who was a no-good-nick, evildoer and drunkard. He just couldn't get enough of the wonderful stuff. He sold his soul to the devil, but finally tricked him and was banned from hell forever when his end came. Here is the story. Jack was sitting in a pub drinking when running out of cash. He said something to himself like, "I'll give my soul for more drinks." This the devil heard and appeared and promised Jack more money for more booze and transformed into a coin. Being wasted, Jack was still clever enough to put that coin into his pocket, where he kept a silver cross, thereby trapping the devil. They came up with a deal. Jack said something like, "I will release you when you give my soul 10 more years. Jackpot." After 10 years, the devil came back for Jack's soul. Jack, being afraid, fell down on his knees, begging, and said something, "Please, devil, can you pick me one of these apples there? As a last meal, I would really appreciate it." The devil, being a nice dude, climbed the tree and picked the apple. At the same time, Jack rushed by and carved a cross into the bark of the tree, trapping the devil again. By the way, isn't that funny how the devil had forgotten about the apple prank he pulled on Adam and Eve in the Garden of Delights? Never mind. Again, they came up with a deal. Jack said, "I will release you if you forsake my soul forever." Angrily, the devil agreed and was released. After some time, Jack's end came and he died. Because of his life of mischief and shenanigans, he was refused access to heaven. Sadly, he turned his back and knocked at the gates of hell. Here, the devil answered and said, "A promise given is a promise kept. No hell for you." From that day onwards, poor Jack had to travel the long, dark, cold and windy road that connects heaven and hell forever. The devil, being a nice dude, gave him a present. He gave him a piece of gleaming coal in a pumpkin for Jack to light his ways. And from that day onwards, Jack has been carrying that jack-o'-lantern that has become a myth. The jack-o'-lantern protects you from the devil. Alright, let us carve our own jack-o'-lantern. Why would you need one, you might ask? Well, it scares off the devil. That's why. Okay, what do we need? Of course, we need a pumpkin. We need a knife. We need a pan. We need a spoon. And we need a light later on. Fine. You might also want to use a salad bowl, because that way you can make sure the pumpkin can't escape as we're working the pumpkin. Fine. So what's the first thing to do? First, we need to cut off the top of the pumpkin. Please make sure you don't push the knife straight into the pumpkin, but tilt it slightly and cut from an angle, because that way you can make sure the top does not fall into the pumpkin. Okay. Make sure you tilt the knife slightly and then push it into the pumpkin. That way you can cut out the top here. Easy. You're done. Next, we need to get the pulp out of the pumpkin. For that, we need a spoon and a knife. Let's go. Now, we need to draw the face. Okay, for the eyes, we choose two triangles here. And there. For the nose, another little triangle here. And now, let's take a look at the mouth. Tooth here. Let's give him a smile because it's scary enough already. Okay, next we cut out the face. Time to cut out the face. Well, make sure the pumpkin is sitting in the salad bowl, because that way the pumpkin can't escape while you're cutting. Now we have finished our jack-o'-lantern. Place it in front of your house and it will protect you from the devil and monsters trying to get hold of your souls. Ha 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 ha.
Hi, time to get some new. I'll be damned. To hell with that lantern. Again, no souls for me.
Told ya! No devil, no monsters. As the old saying goes, keep a jack-o'-lantern before your door. The devil and monsters shall visit no more. What can Halloween teach us? It's hard to say. Maybe Halloween teaches us how to deal with life in the face of fear, age and death. But maybe Halloween also teaches us how to protect ourselves from the monsters of today, terrorizing our societies. Racism, sexism, greed against nature and our fellow humans, ignorance, intolerance, fanaticism, and all the other phobias that are just an expression of unreasonable fears. Happy Halloween. May the monsters of today never take hold of our souls.